The Fringe Podcast, Season 5, Episode 11. Feedback for an origin story.
This is Chris Tilton. I write the music for Fringe, and you're listening to the Fringe Podcast.
Support for the Fringe Podcast is provided by listeners like you and by this week's sponsor, Global Cash Card. Learn how Global Cash Card provides world-class solutions for pay cards, gift cards, per diem cards, flex cards, and more by visiting thefringepodcast.com/global cash card today. Welcome back to the Fringe Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Fox television show
Ned and Stacy.
No clue.
Really?
Not the foggiest.
This one had Thomas Hayden Church and... Is that right? Everyone in the chat room?
Do you find it interesting that typically one of us knows something about the show, but it's never the same person?
That's right. Yeah.
It's like we've been watching all the opposite shows until Fringe came along.
Until Fringe. It was the perfect storm.
That's right. And then it brought us together.
That's right. And Deborah Messing?
Deborah Messing. Okay. Yeah. I know who she is.
She's not messing around. Speaking of messing.
Yes.
What do you say we stop our fooling around?
And do some
we'll
Bunsen burners?
Wind up in Bunsen burners.
All right. Would you like for me to start, or would you like to start?
I would love to start, because I really like this first one. I thought this was pretty brilliant.
Okay.
Need More Power of Pi gave this 6.5 out of 10. Observers are happy with previous century delivery only from Amazon Prime. You know, they've already started same-day delivery. Did you know that?
Yes.
In certain cities?
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Pretty soon, the future, it's going to be previous day delivery.
Uh-huh.
Something is going to show up at your door, and then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I really needed that. And then you're going to get online and order it.
Except you already have the product, so why would you pay for it?
They're going to figure out a way. They've already got your credit card information. They're just going to bill you for it.
There you go. They're going to know what you want before you want it.
Yes.
A Fleet Alex gave it 9 colossal headaches for Peter.
Laura H.T. Dot gave it 8 perplexed, puzzling Peters.
Melchizedek gave it 7.5 observer lament configurations.
The Unibeefer gave it a burn radius of 8.5.
I like that. The Lost Passenger gave it 9 Peter Bowers.
Boston Red Vines gave it 9.04 out of 10 LASIK torture surgeries.
Hydra Island gave it 7.5. Peter is now the new Jack Bauer. I have 2 Bauer references there.
Where is the bomb? Where is the bomb? I will shoot you in your leg. Lysa 2 gives it 7. Is that a fly? Is it the sky? No, it's a shoe, and this does not rhyme.
I love it, Lisa. That's great. Steve S. gave it 9 tapes of Etta.
Etta.
I knew
Tapes of Etta.
I looked at you because
Etta.
I was just waiting for the show.
Yogamon gave it 9 dark shadows of the shoe overhead.
Jenny from Ohio gave it 9 ineffective observer transformations.
Kaylina gave it, I hope I said that right, gave it 9 heartbreaking home movies.
Crowbar gave it 10 not having a TV and being a week behind really stinks.
0 of pie teas. I guess that's supposed to be 0 fights.
Let's invalidate it.
Give it 7.2036 ethanol and hair loss devices.
Security Nerdette gave it 9.4. You lost each other once, but you have another chance.
I hope so. Scaper gave it 8 vengeful Peters.
Waiting for Godot.
Really?
Nice.
Really, Daryl?
I guess I'm completely uncultured. I don't know what that is. I'm embarrassed now.
Oh, goodness.
Could you make me not sound quite so
sorry.
stupid?
It's really hard.
Really, Daryl? I mean, everybody knows that, but you. 7.5 VCR tapes in the desk drawer. Love you, MRH.
I'm sorry,
I'm getting just fried in the chat room.
yeah,
Thank you.
which is really fun.
I'm feeling the love.
New Dana gave it 9 Etta posters.
I just want to quit. Boston Red Vines gave it. My husband, I guess her husband.
Boston Red Vine's husband.
Yes, gave it 3 squared out of 10 wooden pallets from the future.
Their trees are so advanced that they're anti-gravity trees. Did you notice that? They just kind of floated in.
I did notice that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
I want an anti-gravity tree. Can I get one?
No.
That's what I want for Christmas. All you fans out there that are listening. Ryan from Iowa gave it 8 out of 10. Olivia just lost Peters.
You skipped one. Janice LG gave it 10 Wise Walters.
I didn't skip one.
Yeah, you did. I saved it for you.
Vilma?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Vilma gave it 8 overhead shoes.
I'm going to save that one for you, too.
Okay.
Momentum Deferred gave it 8.5. Peter finally told Olivia he loved her. Too bad he no longer knows what love means.
I do not
I want to
understand
know what love means.
this human emotion called love.
I want you to show me.
Who sings that, Daryl?
I want to know what love means. I don't know. Is it Mike and the Mechanics?
I think you might be right. That's pretty good. Little Hill with the L's as ones, except for the first, of course, which is capitalized.
Of course.
Gave it 9 wholly autonomous electronic brain bugs, Batman.
Bongela Ice gave it 8.5 reverse black holes with no side effects.
Yeah, that was a little weird, wasn't it?
Uh-huh. It was.
Zeppelin Driver gave it 8.5 excessive explanations of insect observations. That's good.
That was good. Serenity in All gave it 9 more Etta birthdays.
9 no more Etta birthdays.
What did I say?
9 more Etta birthdays.
I skipped an important word there.
That's a big one.
Yep.
Expendable Gerbil gave it 8.5 point singularity projections.
Now I'm getting slammed for my singing. I'm feeling the love, Bunsen Burners. None of you are invited to the party after all. I'm having it in my basement by myself. My popcorn.
Cry himself to sleep on his huge pillow.
Let's see. Expendable Gerbil. Is that right, or did you just do that one?
I did it.
All right. Clark and R gave it 9. Dig 2 graves, 1 black hole.
TJM gave it 8 untold consequences sure to come.
Totally Addicted gave it 9. Peter, no!
No! Are you going to finish it?
That's
No.
all it says.
Peter, no, no. That's what it says.
Okay, sorry I did it wrong.
Let's try to read it with a little bit more flair.
How about you do it?
Totally Addicted gave it 7. Darn it, Peter! No! No!
That was terrible,
See?
too.
It's better. It was
Wasn't
better.
No. Fringe Peaks gave it 8.875. Peter's going postal on prisoners with positively problematic results.
Yes.
Nice.
Foxy Fringe Chick gave it 8. Will Peter go bald now?
Now I'm getting bashed for my reading.
This episode brought to you by Daryl Bashers.
The Ozone Layer gives it 9.75 resist posters in the alley appearing out of nowhere.
Linda's Lost gave it 8.75 pupillary responses that just aren't the same if you're an observer. Observer.
What are you doing putting your own Bunsen burner in the chat room?
I didn't put it in the notes. Somebody else added it.
I just copied and pasted this
All right.
week. Highway 61 gave it 9.86 Apocalypse Peter.
NYC Fringe Math Geek gave it 8.75. I don't even know what the snit to say about the observer, Peter, through self-surgery.
No One's Minion gave it 8.75. You don't know what you don't know, so let's shove some unknown things into your brain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. Green Peter gave it 10. Yeah, it's that kind of guns.
That was good. Let's see. Monarch gave it 9.75. No more butt drives.
General Galt gave it 9. No parking Fridays between 9 and 10 for the street sweeping singularities.
Nice. Tangier, 14, gave it 9.8. Peter, punctuating portholes.
Star Chase gave it 10 out of 10. Super Peters.
Maureen Paolini gave it 10 trips through the looking glass.
Ted D57 gave it 9. Observer tells.
My Name is Earl gave it 10. What will a father do to avenge the death of his daughter?
And finally, Nightstar gave it 9. I'll be back, Petonators.
Nice. Very good. Well, I'm sorry I butchered those so badly. I'm glad I was able to bring some entertainment to the Bunsen burners. Hopefully I didn't cause any of you to drive off a cliff while I butchered the Bunsen burners. Ready for some feedback?
I think so.
All right. Alrighty. As I mentioned in the last podcast, we got flooded with email this week. And I think it's for two things. I mentioned either last week or the week before that one of the things we've always been able to do is kind of gauge how engaged listeners are or viewers are with a particular episode by how many feedbacks that we get. And typically the more it's liked, the more we get.
That's absolutely true.
So I think that's part of it. The other part of it is people love them some SpeakPipe.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of our internationals are using SpeakPipe, which is, I thought they might benefit from it the most, although several of the American folks are also utilizing it.
Our international listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So let's get things kicked off today with Angela in Ma.
Clint and Daryl, this is Angela from Massachusetts. I am recording this with 5 minutes and 10 seconds left of the episode, right after Peter said to the observer, "If I had your tech in my head, slam." So I'm recording this now without seeing the last 5 minutes because I'm in shock that after a year and a half, maybe, of the theory that Peter will become an observer, oh my God, it's finally happening right now, I think. Disregard this if in the last 5 minutes of the episode this proves to be wrong, but whoa. Fringe still can shock me. That makes me so happy. All right, can't wait to hear the podcast tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Absolutely. And she called it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what, well, we don't know that that's what's happening, but
It sure looks...
it is getting suspiciously crazy, like
yeah.
Peter's turning into an observer right now.
Yeah. Very, very eerily looks like that might be the case. It may not be the case. Like you said, we don't know that for sure.
Yes.
But that's what they want us to believe, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Me too.
So, all right, thanks Angela for calling that in. The next one comes in from Bronson.
Hey guys, this is Bronson from Lebanon, Indiana. Been a long time since I've called. I was playing catch-up this week on the podcast, and right now I'm listening to episode 504. And you were talking about how Olivia and Peter being trapped in Amber, or Walter being trapped for them. But I keep going back to when Olivia was telling Etta that it's been 3 years, 8 months, and 5 days, and there's not one moment that she didn't think about her. That means that when they're trapped in Amber, they are cognizant of everything that is going on around them, whether that, if they're trapped deep in Amber, obviously they're not going to be able to see much, but they're awake, they're thinking. They have nothing to do but sit there and think all day long, every day of the time that they're trapped in an Amber. Just something to think about. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Thanks a lot.
And he is correct.
Right.
Do you remember that? We
Yes.
learned that back in, I don't know if it was season 2, probably season 3. Amber 31422 was the name of that episode.
That's right, because they got the twin brother out, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's I'm glad he brought it up because it's definitely worth reiterating. We hadn't really talked about it the entire time that we've seen these people being, taken out of the amber. But
That's true.
We learned in that episode that that's exactly what's going on. They're thinking about. I think they said in that episode 31422 that it was the last thing was stuck in their head perpetually,
which would be terrible, right?
Yeah, unless you're thinking about pizza.
But then you'd just be hungry and couldn't eat any pizza. That would be terrible.
Yeah. The worst thing would be if my last thought was about your mom. And there's my joke for this podcast.
That's not even funny.
Nothing I say is funny, Clint. I laugh at my own jokes, and no one else does.
Maybe they made an anesthetic amber that anesthetized their brain so they didn't have to think about stuff. This is the future, Daryl.
Yeah, no, I doubt that. I mean, she said that there wasn't a day that went by that she wasn't thinking about her. I think that's either that's what her last thought was, or they were still able to keep lucid thought, but she thought about Etta every single day while she was there.
That would be terrible.
Either way, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yep.
Hopefully she didn't have to think about creepy Markham.
If she was, that's a great point.
Would that be
She's
terrible?
looking up at him going, that dude just spilled salsa on my face.
Oh, that's going to leave a mark.
And what if, never mind. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Let's not. Let's move on to Fringe Peaks.
Okay.
Hey, Daryl and Clint, this is Scott, a.k.a. Fringe Peaks, in the chat room. Taking feedback for the Fringe Podcast. This feedback doesn't relate specifically to an episode, but a couple of questions have come up after listening to previous episodes that I wanted to pose to you too. Number one, on several occasions, Daryl, I believe Clint as well, and some others in the chat room have referenced 15 years difference since the Observer takeover. And yet it seems to me that the first mention of the Observer arrival was 2016, and the current year is 2036, so there's 20 years. So I'm just wondering if there's something in the timeline or something in the timing that I'm missing somewhere, or if there's some evidence for a shortened period that I haven't heard. Second bit has to do with repeated mentions of I'm thinking this is Mole Rat Boy, and whether Mole Rat Boy was in fact a young September. And I think that this is not true. The reason I say this is that from memory, at the end of the episode where Mole Rat Boy appears, he is riding in a car along with his new adoptive family, or the people who will be taking him to his new adoptive family. As he is driving down the street, you see out the driver's side windows and then the rear window as he passes an observer who is standing on the sidewalk looking at him, and the two of them make eye contact. And I'm pretty sure that the observer who's standing on the sidewalk at that point is September. So unless this is a time issue where they've kind of folded back on themselves and the older September has then I think there's a hole in that theory. Again, I don't know if there's anything one way or the other to confirm this, but it was just sort of an interesting observation, I guess, and I wondered what you all thought. Anyway, I really enjoyed the podcast that you guys do. It really contributes a whole lot to the Fringe community, and I look forward to being in the chat rooms every Friday night and when I can on Sundays to follow the discussion. This is Fringe Peaks saying, remember, observers like the owls are not what they see.
I love the sign off.
That was great.
Observers like owls are not what they seem. So that's perfect. You haven't seen Twin Peaks, but he's bringing his name, which is Fringe Peaks, into his sign off.
I like it.
Mixed the two shows there.
That's really nice.
Nice.
So a couple things.
I'll take responsibility for the first part, the 15 years.
Yep.
This is something that I have found myself struggling with as I'm doing the Revolution podcast and the Fringe podcast. I'm getting little things like that, which
Reverse.
aren't little things. I mean, I try to get every detail right. Like last week, I signed off, or I told them to call into the Fringe podcast. I mentioned the Fringe. I acted like it was the Fringe podcast at some point. I get tongue-tied. The blackout has been going on for 15 years in Revolution,
Right.
and I've just superimposed that timeline, that date into this show. I'm sure that's what happened.
Okay.
He's absolutely right on his time. It's 20-ish years, 20,
20-ish.
21 years.
Okay.
Not 15. And I will take, that's probably my fault on that.
Well, thanks, Daryl. To address the mole rat boy comment, I think there is some confusion.
Yep.
Mole rat boy, although he could be considered mole rat boy.
Yep.
It came from the season 2, episode 1.
Episode 2.
2. I'm sorry, 2. You're right. Night of Desirable Objects.
Right.
The boy that I believe Fringe Peaks was talking about was the boy from Inner Child, who was an observer. He had all of the other details correct.
That's right. I think when people, we assume that people, when we say mole rat boy, we assume that everyone has been listening or gone back and listened to all of our podcasts,
right.
And they know what we mean when we say mole rat boy. He might have thought that that's what we meant with mole rat boy.
So it's the kid observer from Inner Child.
Yeah.
I completely agree that it probably was September.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But he's saying it can't be.
Well, no, I think that the person standing outside was probably September, right?
Oh,
The
it definitely
observer.
was.
Yep.
Yes, no question.
So I think that it is a time loop. I think September went and observed the time when Peter and the team, the Bishop team, came to his aid. That's what made him soft. That's what made him experience some emotion for these characters and why he's helping them out through this time loop.
That's what I think, too. I think it is a time loop. It is somehow he was, paradox or not, in the same place at the same time as a young and as an adult.
Yes.
And but that's what I think.
You know, it'd be a really cool final episode. I don't think we're going to get it because I don't know that we're going to see September.
Peter waking up in a bamboo forest with a Labrador Retriever laying down next to him.
That would be a terrible episode.
Okay,
that would be a terrible episode. No, what I think would be a cool.
You understand what I mean?
Final
I'm
episode.
Confused by that.
No, I just think whatever that is that you're talking about is terrible. It's a terrible idea.
Okay.
What would be fantastic as a second to last or third to last or maybe even a final episode would be going through with September all of his experiences in the time that he experienced them.
In one episode?
Yeah. I think you could take bits from all 5 seasons. Shoot maybe 15 minutes of new stuff and then go through and experience everything that September experienced in order, right? Him as a kid, him growing up as the observer, getting, putting himself on the science team so that he could go back and observe the French team, going and observing this historical moment and messing it up. Just going through that whole path and then finally to his demise.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. That would be a cool episode. I'd pay money to see that.
I'm with Yoga Bond. Save that for the movie or a comic. I don't want to see that.
A comic?
Yeah.
No, I want to see it.
Yeah, I don't.
All right.
I don't think so. But hopefully that helped clear things up. We do, what you said, how am I going to say this? Fringe Peaks, what you said we were saying was absolutely what we are saying. We do think that the kid in Inner Child and September are the same. That's a theory we've thrown out there. We may be wrong, but the kid in Inner Child is not what we call Mole Rat Boy. That would be the kid who was eating people and pulling them under the earth in the season 2 episode Night of Desirable Objects.
Night of Desirable Objects, which I still think was terrible.
Yeah,
I know that you came back and said it was a good episode.
Yeah, there was a lot more redeeming quality content in there after my 6th watch.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to Colin. I got to get the right hotkey for this. Here we go.
Hi, Clint and Daryl. This is Colin in Hawaii, and I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I wanted to comment on the bullet that saved the world. Etta's demise in this episode was entirely unexpected for me. When she was caught, at best, I expected a vigorous interrogation. At worst, her head on a stick like Simon. I never expected her to go out like that. I will say that if there was any question about Peter and Olivia's dedication to the world that they've woken up to, it should be cast aside. I think it's safe to say that they're fully committed now. Anyway, I love the show. This is Colin in Hawaii. Aloha.
Thanks for calling, Colin.
Aloha.
What was your outburst there when he said he was from Hawaii?
He's from Hawaii.
Just because you were born in Hawaii, you think that makes you special?
I wasn't born in Hawaii.
Oh, you lived there.
I did.
Yeah.
I think that makes Colin special because I lived there.
All right. What do you think about Colin's comments?
I'm sorry. I lost track after Hawaii. I was just thinking about how great it is that Colin's from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was talking about how Peter and Olivia are more motivated now than ever before.
I think so.
It definitely propelled them to a new level of an intensity and
Yeah, I don't think we would have had this episode if Etta didn't die last week.
no question. There's no question.
You know, I think they would have frustratingly gone through the tapes. Don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to Jenny in California.
Hi, Clint and Daryl. My name is Jenny in San Diego, and this is my first time calling in. I've been a huge Fringe fan since episode 1 because I loved J.J. Abrams and I loved Alias. Not so much Lost. Sorry, but so that's why I started watching, and I've been just enamored from the very get-go. Anyway, about tonight's episode, and I'm just going to say it, even though this might cause a storm upon me, but I am unfortunately glad that Etta died. There was something wrong in the last 4 episodes. There was a severe problem with the dynamic for me, and I just wasn't enjoying the episodes the way I have in the past, and it was kind of like the beginning of season 4 in that way. I mean, Etta really was a fifth wheel. This episode, we had Walter and Olivia scenes. We had Olivia and Astrid scenes. And, of course, Peter and Olivia scenes that were long and wonderful. And I'm just so glad that we have our team back together again the way they should be. It's just, I mean, she was such a great character and she was so well developed in such a short amount of time. But I really think her purpose, was she was meant to be here, like September said, she was supposed to be there because I think she needed to get them out of Amber, and I think that was her purpose. But also her purpose was to bring this team together and make them cohesive again, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful episode having them, all together again and really communicating. About the chip that Peter put in his neck, a lot of people on Twitter are kind of freaking about it, but I'm honestly not seeing it as that bad of a thing. Of course, if it kills him, yes, it will be, but I really feel that this chip is kind of going to give him the advantage and the team the advantage that they lost in losing Etta. I was even pondering, if the whole team could get that chip, or the whole resistance could get that chip, then they could defeat the observers and, get back their world. And I was kind of thinking, I couldn't see the show ending with them stuck in this 1984 world, with all the trees gone and, concrete jungle. But, I'm kind of thinking now that if they could just get through this and beat the observers and, stay together and have their lab, I will be happy. Even though I'd really want them to go back. I really want to reset back to that park where Peter and Olivia are on that blanket and Etta is playing in the sun, because that was so beautiful. Thanks, guys. I'm really enjoying this podcast, and take care. Have a great week.
So what was that outburst this time, Clint?
She's from San Diego.
So just because you were born in San Diego means...
I wasn't born in San Diego.
Oh.
I just lived there.
Where were you born?
Well...
In a lab?
In a lab. No, Daryl.
My
mother was not a dog. I don't appreciate you insinuating that. And you've already had your mom joke for the day.
Yeah, you think that you were born naturally, but in fact, you are a shapeshifter. Admit it.
Look into my pupils.
Look into my eyes.
Oh gosh, let's not go there.
Funny stuff. All right,
Oh,
she
goodness.
had plenty to say.
She did.
No Lost. Glad Etta's dead.
Wow.
Etta's a fifth will. Everyone should get the chip. Wow.
Hey, more power to her for recommending all those things.
Hey, she is out there on a place that very few Fringe fans are. Zero Fights, obviously, if you're in the chat room, you're very aware that Zero Fights shares the same point of view that Jenny does. We don't invalidate anyone's opinions on this show typically, and I'm not going to invalidate hers. I think she does have some valid points. I mean, the dynamic was different when Etta was there. I'm not glad she's dead. I loved the character, but it wasn't the same Fringe that we've grown accustomed to. It shouldn't have. It was a different dynamic because there's a completely different character there. These people are different.
That's right. It was kind of like Peter last season before people realized who he was, right? Or even when he was gone, right? The first 4 episodes of the season.
Absolutely. It felt like a different show.
It was.
Everybody hated it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so I think very similarly here. Different show, different characters.
Completely different dynamic. Yeah. Well, and it's odd, to have, I'm guessing, a 20-year-old-ish. She's got to be 25.
No, I mean, do the math. It was
she was
20
3?
years ago. She was 3, so she's 23.
23. Okay, 23-ish.
Maybe.
Year-old daughter. When you're late 30s, probably.
Yeah, early 30s.
Early 30s. I guess it's not that odd, but
your daughter's basically the same age you are. Within a couple of years.
Yeah, it would be odd.
Yeah,
it was just kind of an odd dynamic, where they weren't really her parents because they didn't raise her. Yeah. They didn't have the investment, but they wanted to be.
Yeah. So I had a friend in high school whose mom was like 14 or 15 when she had him. She got pregnant really, really, really young. She was like the coolest mom ever because it was like she was just a few years older than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Bill and Ted's mom.
That was the stepmom.
Mom. I mean, Missy. I mean, Mom.
Yeah. So what about her thoughts where if everyone could get the chip? What do you think about that?
Ooh. I think we're going to see the consequences of Peter getting the chip.
I do too.
And I think it's going to be bad instead of good consequences.
I'm thinking that if everyone got the chip, that would be what leads up to the observers. We're already predicting that Peter doing what he did. We didn't really talk much about the name and origin story in the last podcast. But if what Peter did becomes the origin of the observers, more people taking those things and putting them in the back of their neck, accelerates that much more.
Yeah.
But if it makes them where they're able to fight against the observer and puts them more on equal footing with the observer and doesn't turn them into observers, then give them all one.
Yeah, but what if we don't know anything about those
That's
things?
right.
We don't know what
anything
they
about
do.
It. Yeah.
We don't know if they're tuned to a person's DNA the same way that Peter got the box wrong, what it's going to actually do to Peter if it thinks he's a different observer.
Maybe all of these little things, maybe it's sucked into him because all of these are tuned to his DNA because he's the master DNA, just like the machine was tuned to his.
I like that. I like that theory.
Ooh, that's kind of scary, though, to think about it. All right, anything else on Jenny's comments?
No, I don't think so.
Clint, have you ever lived in Minnesota?
I've never even been to Minnesota.
All right, then there's no chance of any outburst here as we listen to Brooke.
Hey, Clint and Daryl. This is no one's minion, or Brooke from Minnesota. First-time caller. I've never actually bothered to call in feedback before for an episode, but after watching this night's episode, I had to call in. So I'm really excited about where this season is now taking us. These last 2 episodes have been awesome for me. I'm really loving the tie-ins to the first couple of seasons and the character development that they've taken. I love the tie-in with the whole observers calling the boxes from the future and making me think about David Robert Jones and his window to the other universe, as well as the box and making me think of Safe. It was pretty cool. And in regards to last week with Etta being killed, I think that Etta was really important because of the emotional response that they're going to get out of Peter and Olivia, not necessarily because of Etta, except for her role as a motivation for the resistance. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. These episodes keep getting better and keep really timing me in. Hope Peter doesn't do any more stupid things. Hope he can manage whatever he just did to himself. But this is No One Minion out. Defy, resist, defeat.
Defy, resist, defeat. I love it. It's a good sign-off.
It is good.
Thank you so much for calling in. And, of course, I was just kidding about booing Minnesota.
That was mean, Clint.
Minnesota. I think it's actually a pretty cool state.
I've never been there.
I've never been there, but I hear, I mean, like literally, I think it's 20 degrees cooler than it is in Oklahoma.
I see what you mean.
So
I have some friends from there. They're great people.
that's true.
Yep.
I've never met a person from Minnesota I didn't like.
Have you met anyone from Minnesota?
My English teacher in high school hails from Minnesota.
Is that right?
His name was Mr. What was it? Mr. Langston? No. Mr. Langley? No.
I don't know. Let's talk about
Mr.
Brooke's
Langston.
feedback.
He was cool though.
Yeah. She had flashes of David Robert Jones there, just like I
Mhm.
did.
Yep.
So I'm with you on that.
I'm glad they weren't hot flashes with David Robert Jones.
Well, I'm sure he gives somebody hot flashes. And she talked about Peter doing something stupid, and is he going to be able to control what he did?
No.
I think that's the biggest question right now.
Well,
maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest.
He is so dumb.
He really is. He has no idea what he's just done to himself.
The observers need to hide the kids, hide their wife.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
They're going to find him.
Yeah. Is he going to tell anybody what he's done? How are they going to figure it out?
Ooh, I don't think he is. This seems like something he's going to try and keep secret.
Is it going to be? Is it going to end up tearing his relationships apart?
I think that he will probably kill Olivia.
No way.
Mark my words. He's going to kill Olivia.
Dude, if he did that, the fandom would drive to Joel's house. They would find out where he lives, drag him out, and say, "We demand a rewrite."
He's going to kill her.
No, that's not going to happen.
Yep. He's going to destroy Olivia in order to continue taking out the observers. Because he thinks that he can fix everything. That's what I think.
Wow, that's a gutsy prediction right there. Very gutsy.
All right.
You ready to read a few?
No, but I will.
All right. I'll let you take the first and third, and I'll take the second.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, this one comes in from Jack P. from the UK. Woo!
Have you lived in the UK?
No, I've been there, though.
Well, I've been there. I haven't been there.
Hi, guys. This is my first time sending in feedback, so here we go. For me as a whole, this episode was really good. Peter questioning the observer was good, and it was really smart how he managed to deceive him. I have to say, this is one of my favorite Fringe episodes of all time. Agreed. And he even spelled favorite like somebody from the UK. He put an extra U in it.
Well, he says he is from the UK, so...
The only problem for me was that everything is just looking messed up at the moment. Etta's dead. Peter and Olivia are having problems. And Peter is a human observer. Definitely not September.
Okay.
I just hope that Joel Wyman will be able to sort all these things out before the series finale, on January 18th. Anyway, thanks. The podcast is great. Keep it Fringe. Jack P. from the UK.
Will, I mean, it's definitely looking messier than it's ever looked before.
It's messed up.
Someone in the chat room just said that Joel is a sucker for a love story. I agree with that.
Yes. For destroying it.
You're saying that Peter's going to kill his wife and everyone around him.
It's not his wife anymore, right? Didn't they?
I don't think they ever divorced. I think they just separated.
The splits, the outs.
So what do you think?
Separated by Amber.
Do you see a way to bring this all into a happy place?
Oh, yeah.
And how does that look?
We're going to get our happy ending. I'm telling you, it's going to reset. We're going to get our reset.
How is that going to happen?
It's going to go all the way back to the beginning.
To Peter in Iraq beginning?
No, to Peter at Raiden Lake beginning.
Oh. I'm still saying picnic at the park is where the reset will happen. And we may not even get a reset. These writers are genius. They may have in fact, at this point, I hope we're all wrong, because that's what they do. They blow our minds, and then it was like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't do what I was thinking, because what you just did was much better.
Well, let me throw something else out there that's not going to happen, but I'm going to say that it is.
Okay.
Just so that I could be one step ahead of the writers if they decide to do it.
All right.
Which is also not going to happen. I think that Mark Valley will reprise his role as John Scott in the finale.
All right. So this one...
Really? No comment?
No, that's not going to happen.
I think him and Olivia are going to end up together in the finale. Peter's going to reset the timeline and make sure that he's dead, since he's the creator of the Observers.
All right.
Just saying.
I'm going to read this one that comes in from the Wombat Jedi. It's kind of long, but it's good. G'day, Clint and Daryl. I've just finished watching the latest episode, and to be honest, I'm trying so hard not to be underwhelmed by Season 5. It's been a tough couple of episodes for me. I have trust in the writers that this will end somewhat better than the start of the season. Killing off major characters is very brave, also very risky. The treasure hunt is fast becoming old. I have a growing feeling that there will be no satisfying answers by the end. That's okay for a show like Lost. No, it's not. We were warned there would not be definitive answers for all the weirdness. This is Fringe. I have devoted a lot of emotional content to the awesome, let's see, make sure I'm not getting my wrong line here, to the awesome quality provided by a truly stellar cast who have also clearly put a lot into producing some terrific scenes over the last few years. I've seen interviews on the net of the cast. They seem to be very happy with the way the last season is going. I'm still undecided if I want the happy ending or the tragic one. I definitely do not, under any circumstances, want a reboot. As for the episode, I sat back for at least 10 minutes thinking about what just happened. Peter has put tech into the back of his neck. Yes, he is on a mission. We've seen this before when he went hunting for shapeshifters. That didn't end well. I always enjoy seeing Peter's darker side. It makes him seem more like Walter's son. The theory that the observers are future shapeshifters still looks plausible. The black hole seemed to create a paradox. How could that happen without serious damage to the timeline? Maybe the invaders knew it was going to happen and had a contingency plan and sent the bomb to a parallel universe. I kind of like that, where they were like, it's like the grenade comes into the bunker and you quickly throw it back out.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool thing.
Well, that's kind of what I said in the last thing that
he said it a lot more clearly than you did. I didn't get that out of what you were saying. You were
reading.
Like, wah, science, wah, science.
Keep reading.
All right.
Keep reading.
I'm trying to find where I left off. Okay. Maybe the invaders knew it was going to happen and a contingency plan, blah, blah, blah. All right. I really liked the photos of Etta saying resist. Olivia is a mess, a truly terrific scene of her watching the video. The feelings being projected from her are astounding. It was hard to try and remember it's only a show. I'm sure someone was cutting onions in my lounge room tonight. As for Walter, he is the anchor tonight. Walter had it together, which is great. I don't like him to be the crazy scientist every week. I like to see him shine through with grace and wisdom. Astrid, as always, balances everything. So wish Jessica got more screen time. On the subject of answers, we need to know what happened to September. Surely he has something to do in all of this. I do like the mole rat boy.
Inner child theory.
Yeah, and he's this is another one that got confused. He's talking about inner child. I think he is a young September hiding in plain sight. The other burning issue everyone wants to know, what happened with William Bell? We know he is in the amber, and Walter has his hand. I'm hoping we haven't missed something from a previous episode. The dove? That's easy. It's Charlie. No, actually Broyles for sure. Once again, thank you so much for the great podcast. It's always great to listen while on the way to and from work. Keep it Fringe-tastic and nerdy. Shano the Wombat Jedi, and that's writing in from sunny Shell Harbor, Australia. P.S. It took longer to put this into words than it did to watch tonight's episode. Very hard to put into words and be honest about a show that, to me, is number one.
All right. There's a lot of stuff in there. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, I mean, he talked about being dissatisfied with the first half of the season, and I can certainly understand that.
Not wanting a reboot?
That's the thing, right?
Under any circumstances.
If you're not satisfied with where it's going and you don't want to reboot,
you're set up for disappointment.
Not necessarily. He acknowledged that the wonderful writers that this show has, they may have, like we just said before with the previous writer.
Do a U-turn.
Yeah, they may, look over here, not here, because we're setting up something that's more beautiful than what you guys could have imagined. I totally think that could happen.
I think we're going to see Peter destroyed. And the only way to bring him back is through a reboot. I'm just saying. That's what I think.
I got it. Peter turns into a kayak.
I like that.
You know where you got that, huh?
Yeah, Kino.
Kino, that's
Yep.
right. Mm-hmm. No, it's not going to happen. What else we have here with Wombat Jedi's comments? Do you have anything else you want to touch on there?
Lots of great comments, though. Thank you for sending those in.
Yep, very much. All right, one more to read?
Yes. This one comes in from Brennan in Oregon. Star Chase in the chat room. Brennan says, "Hey guys, this was such a good episode. After the episode, I had a few ideas." Brennan even put it in bullet point form. So number 1, here we go. A lot of people are probably thinking this too. Etta will become like Katniss in Mockingjay. The idea of her will motivate the resistance to do the best that they can do and eventually triumph. You can kill a man, but a symbol is eternal. Number 2, Peter sticking the observer capsule in his head. This is why he was important in the first place. There has always been a nagging question of why September was in the lab when Walter and it found the cure. Could this be the reason? I think so. I think Peter will become even more of a valuable asset for the Resistance now that he has observer tech in him, but I also think it will come at a horrible cost. But the ending will be happy. These are my thoughts. What do you think? I think the only way we're going to have a happy ending is with a reboot.
And I think that too, but like I said, I also think that we don't pretend to know everything, obviously.
That's true.
There could be something out there better than what we're hoping or what we have imagined.
And just to be clear, there's only been a single reboot.
Yes.
In the show.
I still stick by what I said last week.
Feels like a lot more.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's a single reboot.
Yeah.
It's the end of season 3. Transitioning to the beginning of season 4 was the only reboot.
Yeah. It just touched different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
But I'm not going to re-argue that point because you're more correct than I am on that.
What?
Yes, that's right. I'll admit it.
Okay.
All right,
Daryl.
Thank you, Brendan, for sending that in. And we're going to get back to the audios now with Interdimensional Dave.
Hi, friends. It's the Fringe Podcast. It's your old buddy, Interdimensional Dave. After watching last Friday night's episode of Fringe and Peter's solution to leveling the playing field with the observers, it reminded me of a couple of famous quotes, the first of which is "Know your enemy," and that's from Sun Tzu's Art of War. The full quote goes like this: "So it is said that if you know your enemies and you know yourself, you can win 100 battles without a single loss. If you only know yourself but not your opponent, you may win or you may lose. If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will always endanger yourself." And the last part of that quote may be the part that applies to Peter. I'm not so sure he knows the observers well enough to adopt their tech. I know he's sharp, but that's dangerous territory. And does he really know himself well enough to go out of bounds like this? The danger of adopting your opponent's tactics is becoming your enemy. And when I thought Peter was becoming just like the enemy, just like Etta was in danger of doing when she was torturing that loyalist back in absentia, it reminded me of the other quote from Pogo, which is an old Funny Pages comic from way back when. And that particular quote goes like this: "I have met the enemy and he is us." And the actual comic itself, Pogo and his buddy are tromping through the woods in the swamp and noting how difficult it is. And when they turn around, they can see what a mess the swamp or the forest has become. And the people that did that are the comic book characters, Pogo and the rest of his gang. They've bespoiled their own woods and turned it into a dump. Pretty much what like the observers have done with the future, and now they're going to do with our present. So the lesson there is be careful what you wish for. You know, if Peter's going to battle the observers in this manner, he may become just as bad as they are. Lastly, this particular season of Fringe reminds me a lot of the French Resistance from World War II. And if you want to know or have some insight on how this season may end of Fringe, take a look at the movie Army of Shadows. It's by Jean-Pierre Melville. It came out in 1969, and it's probably one of the best films about World War II and the French Resistance that I've ever seen. In fact, it's quite sad. So if you do want to get some insight And maybe this movie provided some inspiration. See the movie Army of Shadows. It's on DVD and it's part of the Criterion Collection too. And make sure you bring a box of Kleenex along with you. It doesn't end well, and it's pretty sad. Spoiler alert. Let's hope it doesn't get that bad for our heroes in Fringe. Anyway, that's all I have for now. I'm going to put up a blog post on your site to expand on these thoughts a little further. Until then, Interdimensional Dave, out.
All right. Now, Daryl, I wasn't aware that there was such a thing as a French resistance.
French resistance.
I wasn't aware that there was such a thing as a French resistance in World War II. The way I've heard it told is that they just turned tail and ran to the coast and couldn't run any further.
So clearly what Clint is trying to do is to infuriate our French listeners so that you can prove that you're out there.
What?
Isn't that what you're doing?
No.
You did with our
Wisconsin
listeners a couple weeks ago?
I'm not trying to get hate mail. Although if we did get some, that would be kind of cool. But I just never knew that there was any sort of French resistance.
All right, French listeners, if you're out there.
The history books that I read said that the big bad Americans came in and saved the Frenchies.
Uh-huh. Golly, you are asking for hate mail.
I can't even say that with a straight face. Oh, my goodness.
Once again, superb feedback from Interdimensional Dave. He would know how to pronounce all those fancy words that I butchered in our Bunsen Burners segment. He's much more cultured than I am, much more well-read than I am.
He's he did a good job, even of the Pogo comic.
Yeah.
Because I think that became a theme for, if I remember correctly, the Vietnam War, right?
Okay. I don't know.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Looking forward to reading that.
I'm getting lit up in the chat room. This is great.
To see Clint getting hammered now. I'm looking forward to seeing that blog post from Dave. Can't wait. And that'll be when he posts that. We always tweet about it, and so but that'll be over at our website when he gets that done over at thefringepodcast.com. So thank you, Dave, for that. Let's hear from Joey.
Hello, Clint and Daryl and Clint. I'm calling for the Fringe Podcast for an origin story. My name's Joey_Williams from Atlanta. Holy Gene, that episode was great. The only reason I'm calling is just to discuss the end. What's going to happen with Peter here. The episode's called An Origin Story. He injects an observer tech into his neck, or back of his neck. What does this mean? Does this mean he's going to become an observer? Does this mean he's going to become some sort of superhuman ability soldier? I don't know. It's called An Origin Story, and there were no flashbacks in this, so, I'm leaning towards the fact that he might eventually become an observer of some sort. If you can remember, the season 5 promo posters showed an observer staring, towards the viewer of the poster, and it, to me, resembled Peter. I don't know. You might want to take a look at that. Anyways, just a few thoughts. Love the podcast. My first time leaving a voicemail of any sort. So look forward to hearing it. Take care, guys.
You seeing a pattern with today's feedback, Clint?
Yes, it's all good.
Any other patterns you're noticing? You got to find the pattern.
Find the pattern.
It's almost all first-time callers.
Yeah, this is great.
Almost entirely.
It's great. I love it.
Thank you, Joey, for calling in. He mentions the poster, and I don't see it myself, but I'm not poo-pooing it. One thing that we had a few people call in, and I don't know if those made the feedback podcast, so I may be getting to something that we would have gotten to down the road. But you remember our first Comic Con 2 years ago?
Yeah. Josh
Jackson wasn't scheduled to be there because he had been erased from the timeline.
That's right.
And he showed up.
In what?
Observer.
Uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really nice.
And there was a video, too, with Peter as an observer.
That's right.
Yeah. So was that a nod? Did they know back then what they were going to be doing this season?
They have said from the beginning that they always had a plan. No, that was Lost, and they lied.
No, they've said that with this show, too.
I don't think so.
You don't think they knew back then?
No, I mean, what Pinkner said is that they've got folders, and they've got an idea of the story that they want to tell, and each season is kind of like a folder.
But I think they went to the season whatever folder they had in mind for the last season, and that's what they're pulling out now.
Possibly.
So this is something they could have had in mind for quite a long time.
That's true. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Point, Daryl. All right. Thank you, Joey, for sending that in. Let's
I will
move
admit
on.
that you were righter than me.
Righter than you. All right, let's listen to Simon calling in from Germany.
Hi, Clint and Daryl. This is Simon from Germany. It's the first time I'm sending feedback. I have a lot to say, but I try to keep it short. First, I give this episode 9 out of 10 neck props. It was an awesome episode. My favorite episode of season 5 and one of my favorite episodes of Fringe at all. The fake painting Etta was keeping all these weapons behind reminded me about old spy movies, and the entrance to Batcave was really cool. Cool was also the wormhole from the future, especially when the shipments were coming through and afterwards the whole area was burned. Nice effect. Now, why didn't the plan to collapse the wormhole work? Well, maybe it did work. We don't know if the second shipment came from 2609 or maybe from 2630 after they recovered from this attack. What really made this episode awesome was the interrogation scene between Peter and the Observer. I think Joshua Jackson and John Prosky really did a great job with that scene. When Peter was strangling the Observer with the plastic wrapper, you could really see his anger, and you could see the Observer's struggle to keep himself alive, even thought he previously said it doesn't matter. There came the subconscious level back in play. It was really strong. This line, you saw what you wanted to see, is kind of like pseudoscience. Or it reminded me about pseudoscience, where you have a scientific theory, but you don't look for actual proof, but actually for just the theories that fits you and ignore the rest. And this A Dog Doesn't Smile reminded me about the dog from my parents. Often I think that it is smiling, even though I don't, it doesn't. The Observer also reminded me about a line about the Nazis. The Nazis were so horrible because they lacked complete empathy for their enemies, which allowed them to do all this horrible things with the Holocaust and so. And the Observers are lacking empathy as well, even with themselves. So this is a nice parallel, one of the many we had this season. Now let's come to the theories. The episode is called The Origin Story, but so most of us thought that there would come something completely different. But maybe this is the origin story. Peter implanted this neck prop into his neck, and maybe he's now getting the abilities of an observer, or maybe becomes an observer. Maybe Peter thereby becomes the first observer, and all observers are actually descendants of him. This would really make it the origin story, even though we don't know it yet. Like your podcast, and I hope you will keep the work up. By the way, have you ever thought about making an Error podcast? I really like that show. Bye.
All right, Simon, thank you so much. That was some great feedback we got. He mentioned, which I don't think we talked about, that as human beings we attribute dogs smiling, and they never smile. They can't smile, right?
I've seen those commercials. They sing and dance too.
Meow 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 meow. Those are cats, Daryl.
Oh, well, you got me going down that road.
Sucker.
You also talked about scientific theory, something or other.
Yeah, pseudoscience.
Yeah,
that you look for the proof in your own theory rather than trying to find what's out there. So I thought that was
right.
Good. We both saw the Arrow
at Comic-Con.
Help me out.
The
series
premiere pilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, multiple times.
Yep.
I think we liked it.
We did like it. For me, it comes on a night where I can't watch it. I know there's DVRs and stuff like that, so I wish it came on a time when I could watch it because I did like it.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
For what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we'll do a podcast about it though. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. Probably not for us.
Probably not for us.
And I'm glad you like it. I'm hearing good things about it. I wish I had time to watch it.
I'm gonna watch it. I think I'm gonna watch it all in a row.
I might do that over the summer, try to catch up on it.
And then see if it's worth tuning in for season number 2.
Yeah, that's what I did with Person of Interest last year.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's
wonderful.
Great.
Yep.
Glad to hear it.
All right, let's move on to Laura in New York.
Hi, Clint and Daryl. This is Laura from New York. I'm calling in to discuss the last episode of Fringe. Actually, my husband, Steve from New York, just called. We both just discovered your podcast at the end of last season. We've been longtime Fringe fans, and we have a little bet going to see who, if either of us is going to get chosen to be played for your feedback episode. I actually wanted to say something about the previous episode, The Bullet That Saved the World. I didn't hear anybody say this on the feedback episode from that show. I really was waiting after Etta was shot, and since they had made a reference earlier to Olivia's bullet from the end of the previous season, I was really waiting for Olivia to do the same thing to Etta that Walter had done to her and remove the bullet from Etta, and then the cortexiphan that I'm thinking is somehow latent within Etta's body from when she was inside Olivia, Olivia having all the cortexiphan. I was waiting for that same thing to happen, for Olivia to remove the bullet and for Etta to magically heal from the power of the cortexiphan, and I was very disappointed when that didn't happen. My other comment regarding this current episode, the origin episode, I guess I'm waiting for the other universe to come back into play. I know that they kind of closed the storyline on that at the end of last season, but for me that was such a part of the mythology for the entire series. To just not be there anymore seems like something is missing. And I think my husband may have referenced this in his feedback, but in Etta's apartment at the beginning, there was a part where Olivia was standing on one side of the room and the walls were painted blue, and Peter was standing on the opposite side of the apartment and the walls were painted red. And I couldn't help but think of how originally Peter was from that other universe and Olivia is from the blue universe, and was that an homage to that idea, or maybe possibly some foreshadowing? And of course, the idea of them losing their child, that goes back to me, to really the origins of the whole storyline of the show, Walter losing Peter as a boy, and then going and doing something that broke the laws of nature and the laws of science to attempt to save him and bring him back. And I'm thinking that Peter now is going down that same road, that he lost his daughter and he is now going to do something immoral or against the natural order of things in order to avenge her death, and it seems like he's going down that road. So thank you, and enjoy the podcast. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say about this week's episode.
All right.
Wow, that was some great feedback.
So we have competing spouses again.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That is kind of funny. You know, I thought her comment about, it is something that we really haven't talked about enough, I think.
Yeah.
You know, Walter losing a child, you know, and his line, I forget what episode it was in, but he journeyed to the edge of madness.
Oh, that's in the White Tulip.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you know, I've journeyed to the edge of madness when he's talking with Peter Weller.
Alistair Peck.
Yeah, Alistair Peck. You know, I think we're seeing Peter do that now, right?
Oh, sure. It seems that way.
He lost his child, and I mean, it's crazy to take a computer chip out of something that may not even be humans' skin, cut yourself open, and let it attach itself to your brain.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's the edge of madness.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing this played out like a Greek tragedy all over again.
Yeah. Someone mentioned earlier about how Walter was not the crazy guy this time. He was they didn't call him the tether, I don't think, but you know, that type of mental image is what came to my mind, and that's what he was in this episode.
Yeah,
because he has been there before.
Yeah,
and that was also refreshing because Walter has, like you said, traveled through madness to learn this stuff. He has unfortunately walked this road that that Olivia and Peter are now walking down.
Yeah, and I think that's why ultimately his motivation for bringing the video, however hard it is, that he wanted Olivia to kind of latch on to that, to some semblance of humanity, and it maybe he knows that Olivia may be the only thing that can bring Peter back from the edge, right?
Yep.
The good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. All right, let's move on to Chantel in New York. Lots of New Yorkers, too.
Hi, Daryl and Clint. This is Chantal from New York. Chantal NY, not Chantilly, like Clint said my name a few weeks ago. I am calling for my feedback for the origin story. And I am calling from my home outside of New York City, which is in our 6th day of a blackout. So thing that was most upsetting was that I could not watch the origin story with everyone on Friday night the way I usually do. That was a big bummer. But I want to give my Bunsen burner, it was a 10. This was a fabulous episode. Unlike how upset I was last week when Etta was killed off and they clear that they will never let Olivia and Peter be happy. Not sure what to expect this week. And origin story was amazing. I think that we are seeing the origin of the observers. I believe that just like Belly wanted, Peter and Olivia could very well be the Adam and Eve of our observers, with Peter's stunt of putting in the observer tech into his body. So we're going to see where that goes. I also thought Olivia was finally amazing in coming out of her shell and showing her feelings, and it was great to hear her say, I love you again to Peter. So, with those two things is why I give it 10 happy endings. I hope we get some happy endings here. So that's my Bunsen burner and my feedback. This is my first time calling. I wanted to share my thoughts since I didn't get to share the watch with you guys, and thank you so much for putting some light into my blackout. Thanks, and have a great night. Bye.
What a nice sign-off.
Oh, that was nice.
After we've both have now butchered her name, and I feel especially bad because you didn't know how to pronounce it. She said that you could have been pronouncing it wrong. I wrote down in my notes so that I would not mispronounce her name. And I wrote it down as Chantel. And as I'm listening to Laura and looking at who's next, I saw it as Chantel, and I'm like, I think it's Chantal. And I said, no, I wouldn't have typed it in wrong because I made a note on it. And then I typed it in wrong, and I apologize. I tried extra hard to get it right, and I got it wrong anyway. But
that's okay, Daryl. We still love you.
It's terrible. Why am I doing this?
Because you love podcasting.
I do.
And you look forward to seeing me for the 3 hours a week that we get to spend together.
I don't.
Oh, Daryl. You gave and you gave without taking.
Oh, wow. Okay, what do you think about her comments?
But I pushed you away. What?
What do you think about her comments?
Oh, sorry. I was trying to figure out what song I was going to sing. I wasn't really paying attention. It's not true either. No, I thought she made some good points, particularly about Olivia.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see Olivia with any of her powers back this season?
Do I think we're going to? No. See, there was this comment at the end of last season.
Right.
Where
are you going?
That was made in passing about all of the cortexiphan in her system has been consumed by her pushing the bullet out, which was supposedly around the same time she got pregnant, right?
Right.
So neither her nor
Etta
have any cortexiphan in their system.
Apparently.
Right?
Right.
But at the same time, I would love to see that come back, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would love that.
Olivia,
particularly if she had her abilities, and then we have Pete Terminator with his abilities.
Superhero couple.
Yeah, it'd be like the Fringe comic that we saw.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Read. Yeah.
All right.
Good. So Chantal, thank you for calling in, and we've got a lot of folks that are without power, like you are. We've got several that are still without power, and that is tough. We've had power outages for like a day or two here, from time to time with ice storms or whatever. I can imagine dealing with what all the folks in New York are dealing with, and our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. And we, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, and all up and down the eastern seaboard,
That's right.
especially up by New York City.
Yeah,
I know that there's a lot of people in New Jersey without power.
Yeah, don't you feel bad now about what you said about Jersey Shore a few weeks ago?
That I got canceled?
Yeah.
That it was like New Girl?
I think our comments about the show Jersey Shore stand, but our that was never reflective of what we thought about the actual Jersey Shore or the people that live there.
Or the state of New Jersey.
Right.
That's right. It's better than Old Jersey.
That's right.
Certainly smells better than my Old Jersey.
All right, let's listen to Amy.
Hi, Hi, Clint and Daryl. My name is Amy. I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. First, thank you for the great podcast. I've been listening for a few years now, and you really make watching the show a lot more enjoyable. So I finished watching the latest episode. At first, I was thinking it was a bit of a throwaway episode because the pacing seemed slow and not much was happening, but then came the ending. Wow, I did not see that coming. It was kind of gross. I understand Peter's upset, but I don't know why he would put that observer tech in his head. It seemed like he wasn't thinking about what this could mean for Olivia, Walter, and Astrid, and whether this would put them in any sort of danger. Also, it didn't seem clear as to when he will actually tell them what he did. Also, what does this now mean? Will the other observers know what he knows? Will he be part of a hive mind? I'm, of course, thinking about the Borg, and I don't know, it just seems scary. Also, does this mean that the observers are definitely humans and not shapeshifters? If Peter could use the same tech that they use, it makes me think that they're human too. A few other things. Why would they let Peter be alone with the observer? That just seemed kind of weird to me. Also, I don't really understand, after the black hole was created, and Olivia jumped out of the van, all of a sudden she saw these resist signs with Etta's face on them, and they just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. I didn't really see them before that, and they didn't explain it, so maybe you guys can. Again, thank you for the wonderful podcast, and I look forward to hearing more about your theories. Bye.
All right, Amy, thank you very much for that feedback. The last two things that she asked about the posters and the black hole are things we talked about in the last episode. So, Amy, if you haven't listened, go back and listen to our normal episode, not the feedback episode, for an origin story.
Is that it?
That's all I have. Do you have something else?
I did. Let's see. She talked about the pacing of the show, and I thought the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
But again, not everyone likes the same things out of every episode.
Yeah.
But she talked about the hive mind. How Peter, if he's
forgot about that. Yeah.
If he's put the thing in his head and it makes him with them, that will be very interesting if that's true.
And it reminded her of the Borg.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think so. For me on the pacing thing, when I look up and there are 12 minutes left and it feels like it's been about 10 or 15 minutes of actual show, to me that means that the pacing has really done its job well, I think. But I thought it was really interesting that, like you said, Daryl, that she brought up the hive mind.
Yeah.
Again, we haven't seen that since season 3. Is that right?
The opening credits, you mean?
Well, it is in the opening credits, but if you remember the bee,
that's right. That was episode or season 4. I think.
Season 4. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It was. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I get my seasons mixed up. It's hard to keep them straight in my head.
I do too. Should have done the rewatch. Boom.
Oh.
All right. Last audio feedback.
Seems like I had something going on.
Having a baby?
Oh, yeah, like having a baby.
Okay, technically your wife did that?
I'm going to punch you in the baby.
What?
All right, we've got one more audio feedback.
One more. This one comes in from Steve in New York.
Hey, Clinton Darrow. This is Steve from New York. My wife and I have been listening to the podcast for a couple of seasons. We love it. First time calling in. Just watched the last episode, Origins, last night, and it wasn't bad. But keep saying I want to put my faith in the writers and what their, game plan is. But each week, as we get closer to the end, I'm kind of feeling a little bit more unfulfilled, and I'm starting to worry that maybe it's just not going to be as good as we were hoping it was going to be. Not that we don't look forward to watching it still each week, but just Etta dying alone was probably completely unnecessary. Last night's episode, just one thing, everybody probably caught it, but in the beginning, in the blue walls in the house, the two universes, Like, so I don't know if that's foreshadowing something. Thought we might get a hint of maybe some hope that Etta might be coming back, but we'll see. And when Peter put the chip in his neck at the end, it just seemed very, I don't know, a little bit unlike, I know he's upset, but to do that with nobody around or Walter checking it out first or studying it, a better way to use it. I mean, you really had no idea what that thing was going to necessarily do. Thought they could have went another way with that, and it seems like he's probably going to keep it a secret now too, which also seems a little bit maybe out of character. But we'll see. Hopefully, each week we'll get a little bit better. I love the show. Talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Daryl, did you think that was out of character for Peter?
No, I didn't. Because of what we mentioned earlier. When we've seen him put to the breaking point, he doesn't. He'll go off and do his own thing.
Yeah, he's not very good at suffering quietly.
No.
Right. He is a man of action. He wants to make things happen, and when they're not happening good enough or fast enough for him, he takes extreme measures.
That's right.
And I think we've assumed that in his past, right?
Right.
We saw that with Crazy Eddie.
Well, Big Eddie, but
Big Eddie.
We also saw it to some extent last season when he basically talked Olivia and Lincoln into taking him over to the other side as posing as the other Lincoln so that he could get some action taken to get him home to his own timeline.
Yeah.
He'll take control when he needs to.
Yep.
Yeah, and take no prisoners along the way.
That's right.
Did you hear what Steve said there to start out his feedback? That he and his wife listen to our podcast?
Yeah, it's shocking.
His wife is Laura.
It's almost like we heard from her earlier.
Yeah. So for the second time, we have a couple on the same podcast. Thought that was good. Thanks, guys, for both of you for calling in.
That's not true.
We also got several comments about the bullet that saved the world, and we couldn't get every comment in, but last week's episode being called "The Bullet That Saved the World" could be that the bullet that killed Etta could also be the bullet that saved the world because it's what propelled Olivia and Peter into action.
True.
And I like that. Lots of good thoughts. All right, Clint, are you ready for some twinge?
I am. Let's get the show on the twingy road. All right, Twinge fans.
I think the Thunder game must be on.
Okay. This week's Twinge poll question of the week was, what will happen to Peter now that he has, quote, been assimilated?
Spoiler alert. I'm just kidding.
Oh, come on, Daryl. Really? I mean, that was vague enough. Wasn't it?
That was fine. I
Okay.
said that because I got called an a-hole on Twitter this week because I retweeted somebody that said something about Etta's death.
This week?
This week, Friday night. And I spoiled them. And anyway, I'm not going to rehash.
Okay.
I don't feel bad for that at all.
You shouldn't.
I don't.
Do we need to have this conversation again?
No.
No. Okay, we won't.
Nope.
All right. This comment comes in from Tony Caselli. This is the first comment. I think it's probably a really good one.
This is from Tony Caselli, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Tony says, A, he starts kicking butt. 2, he struggles to maintain his humanity. And Roman numeral 3, time traveling or reset becomes much more possible now that he's got the observer tech in his brain. And Marie J says, Peter will begin to lose himself, but Walter, Astrid, and Olivia in particular will not let that happen without a fight.
Right.
Lynn Johnson says, very worried that we will have evil Peter. Did he just start the observers we will see in the future?
Yep.
I like that. Maureen Holt says, I hope Peter does not lose his hair for one. I think he will keep this secret and use his new knowledge against the observers. Dana French says he will be able to read Olivia's thoughts. This is my favorite one of all, by the way.
Okay.
He will be able to read Olivia's thoughts, and he will discover that Etta is Lincoln's.
You would like that one.
This is the best one. That was the best.
Who did that come from?
Dana Fringe.
I'm invalidating that.
Can't. Thomas Weber says Peter will become an observer with emotions and take over, leading Baldies out of our timeline, like kind of like the Pied Piper.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Amy Somensky says he will now be observer number 1. He and Olivia will have another child with a genetic mutation to become the future observers.
Okay. Bless you.
Thank you. Ryland says slowly lose his mind before he exacts revenge.
I'm sorry. In response to that, Zero Fight says inner child. Is that their offspring, maybe?
Maybe. I like that.
I like that, too. That's
Sent
why he
back in
interjected
time.
it. Yeah.
Gotta go back in time.
That would explain the connection he had with Olivia.
Gotta go back in time.
I like it. I'm not going to invalidate that, Zero.
All right. Android Omega says Peter will slowly become one of the observers, both physically and mentally, and turn against the team. Ooh. Mike Gorham says Peter will have observer abilities. He will act too confident in his actions, like tonight's episode, and Belly will save him.
Oh, okay.
Jenny says, I'd like to hope that Peter can control his new self, but I'm thinking no. The show will not have a happy ending. Travis Morehouse, I like this one, says Peter will cause another reset. Seems like he's the only one who can do it right. Y'all called it. And yes, we did. Senna Wolf says Peter will be lost for a while. Olivia and Walter will save him, but we may lose Walter in the process.
Oh.
Hope not.
Me too.
Dave Spence says Super Observer Peter will go a little crazy, get over it, and then open a can of watermelon and save the world again.
All right.
Jenny says, I think Peter may have the ability to influence time. This may be the key to our happy ending. The Lost Passenger says, I doubt that Peter will lose his hair and dress like an observer, but I think he will acquire some observer powers.
Okay.
Jay Gibbs says he'll go full observer in the mid-season cliffhanger, and Olivia will give the order to fire. So Jay Gibbs thinks that Olivia's going to kill Peter, not the other way around.
Well, wouldn't that'd be tough.
Yes. I need more power of Pi says, well, on the bright side, he won't have to worry about getting a haircut ever again. You know, because he'll be bald.
Okay.
Peter says Peter will not tell the team about the tech. Sadly, he will gradually become more like a full-fledged observer. Lemon Eyes said, with Peter assimilated, he and Olivia will be back in Angst City, not getting along. 100% soap opera, 0% sci-fi.
All right.
Emily says, in a Peter-like fashion, he will abuse it at first, use for a personal vendetta, then adverse side effects will wake him up to use for good.
Okay.
Kome9 says he will begin to lose his humanity. Roberta King says he will not know what he doesn't know and be able to win the fight.
Okay.
Let's see. Jack Pierrepoint says, I think he will keep his humanity and not go bald, but be able to use observer tech like mind reading, etc.
Okay.
Benjamin says we will only see him in future episodes and background screenshots as he observes others being pointlessly killed by the writers.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's good.
Jim Cartwright says Peter's now the first observer and is in charge of them in the future. That's why the black hole didn't work. He knew it was coming. Elizabeth B says he gets time travel abilities and fights the observers from the past when they first arrived.
Okay.
No One's Minion says he'll be a superhero for a few episodes until they have to strip his powers from him, a la Peter Petrelli, which is a reference to Heroes.
Oh, okay.
This insight will be vital. Zero Fight says he will now become what he was trained to be, trans-universe existence, time-hopping, time reset. He's the biggest paradox of the show.
That's kind of cool.
Brian Thackerberry says new tech equals new powers, but can he teleport and time jump? If so, watch out, timeline. Welcome back, Etta. And go back and invest in Apple.
No doubt.
That's funny. We might get the... I think he's going to fly around the world to spin it backwards. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And finally, Stephanie Lang-Nichols says he will be able to time travel and read thoughts of the observers like the Borg in Star Trek. But he'll also lose his emotions.
Well, I'm losing my emotions.
That's not how it goes.
No, not really.
That's me and the observers losing my emotions.
I was doing a different song.
And
this
I
came
don't
in the chat room while you were doing that. You might have seen it. Run Pacey Run and Zero Fights both said at the same time, what if the chip is the Cortexiphan? You know, we talked just a minute ago about how he would have superpowers, and then if Olivia got her Cortexiphan back, she would have superpowers, and they'd be superheroes together. But what if that is a Cortexiphan that is now controlled? We saw Nina and them injecting Olivia in the back of her neck, right?
Was it in the back of her neck?
I was thinking
Was
so.
it into her spine? It might have been. You might be right.
Man, that's a great thought, guys. Both
like
of you
that.
hit that at the same time, so I like that a whole lot.
Yep.
All right.
That wraps up this week's Twinge segment and transitions us to our contact info. So if you want to participate in Twinge, that goes out at noon somewhere.
That's right. It's in some time
It's
zone.
noon o'clock somewhere on Saturday.
I think the Thunder might have just scored. I don't know if you guys can hear that. My wife gets really excited when Thunder...
About basketball? She must do a lot of yelling because there's a lot of scoring in basketball games.
She's quite animated.
You can follow us on Twitter at GSM Podcast. Look for that. And always reply to #TFP Twinge to participate. You can call us at 304-837-2278. That's 304-TFP Twinge. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Golden Spiral Media or SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Golden Spiral Media. You can also leave feedback using SpeakPipe, which is on our website.
Yep.
I agree. It's really exciting. Really super duper exciting. You can also email us feedback, preferably audio. But if you're really lazy, you can type it out. That's right. I called you lazy. And that's feedback at thefringepodcast.com. Daryl, this goes out Wednesday, which means that if somebody downloads this, they may have like 20 minutes to produce.
Maybe. I get it out late Wednesday night.
So I'm thinking that at this point...
The podcast awards are wrapped up.
Not the podcast awards.
The contest.
You're
right.
Yes.
Podcast awards are still open through the 15th.
That's right.
Contest.
Which we want you to vote on every single day for your favorite podcast. If it just so happens to be ours for best produced and entertainment, then so be it. But you should go out and vote. And also, if you're in the U.S., you will have already voted yesterday and probably will know who the president is. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Barack Obama for winning his second term.
Or?
No, that's what's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think you probably are. Although it's a dead heat, they say.
I think that we won't know who the president is for... It's going to be like 2000.
Oh, man.
It's going to be a month.
It might be. I mean, they're saying it's really close. But anyway, the other thing I was going to mention the support page. We had some folks ask during the podcast if we have Newegg. We do. Interdimensional Dave mentioned the Criterion Collection. All of those are available through Hulu Plus.
Yes.
Which
fantastic.
We have an affiliate link for them too. So go over to our support page, goldenspiralmedia.com/support. All of our donation and affiliate links are located over there. And we really genuinely appreciate all your support.
Yeah, we got Amazon and all kinds of fun stuff over there.
Netflix.
Yep.
Think Geek. We've got some really cool Think Geek stuff over there. So go check it all out. Yeah.
Also, check out our Cafe Press store for Fringe Geek gear.
It's also on that same page.
That's right. All right. And that page is thefringepodcast.com/support.
That's right. Or goldenspiralmedia.com/support.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Fringe Podcast. And until next time, stay Fringe-tastic.
And keep it Frenchy.
The Fringe Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Warner Brothers, or Fox. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. For advertising opportunities, our live show, and other Golden Spiral Media podcast productions, visit goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media. We have some exciting news to share. Daryl has been selected to speak at New Media Expo, formerly Blog World, taking place in Las Vegas on January 6th through the 8th, 2013. New Media Expo is the world's largest and only industry-wide conference, trade show, and media event for bloggers, podcasters, social media networkers, online communities, internet radio and TV broadcasters, and every type of new media user and content creator. This is where independent content creators, journalists, marketers, internet entrepreneurs, and the world's largest corporations learn about the newest online communication technology, tools, and methods from innovators and industry leaders. Past events have offered more than 100 educational sessions with amazing speakers, including Guy Kawasaki, Mark Cuban, Steve Rebell, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tim Ferriss, Chris Brogan, Paula Berg, and dozens of A-list bloggers and podcasters, award-winning journalists, Fortune 500 executives, and world-renowned online marketers. There is a wide selection of topics ranging from building an audience and community, basic and advanced blogging and podcasting, audio and video tools and techniques, web TV and internet radio broadcasting, monetizing content, social media marketing, how to effectively engage bloggers, and maximizing new media in your business marketing mix. I will be leading a session on tips for fan podcasters, joined by Lost podcasters Jay and Jack Glatfelter and Jason Kabasi from the Walking Dead cast. We will discuss how to choose the right show, how to build a community around your podcast, how to promote your podcast, how to build a relationship with a TV network, and how to properly conduct interviews. Check out all the amazing content offered at New Media Expo and book your ticket today by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/New Media Expo. I can't wait to see you in Las Vegas, January 6th through the 8th.